I remember the smell of rosemary chicken in the oven, the sound of laughter echoing off the walls, and the warmth of a home that felt whole. It was a Sunday, our usual family dinner, a tradition we'd kept for over a decade. My wife, Martha, humming softly while setting the table. My daughter, Lily, trying to keep her toddler calm while scrolling through her phone. And my son, Evan, joking about how he still couldn't cook to save his life. Nothing felt off. Not yet. I just poured myself a glass of wine when Martha called out, "Dinner's ready!" The scent of fresh rolls filled the room as we gathered around the table. Our table, where countless memories had been made. We sat in the same seats we always did. I sat at the head, Martha to my right, Evan across from me, Lily to my left with her daughter nestled in a high chair between us. We said grace like we always do. Evan cracked another joke about Martha. Mystery sauce. Lily rolled her eyes, but laughed anyway. Her little one, my granddaughter, giggled while throwing peas on the floor. It was chaotic, beautiful, ordinary, and I soaked in every second of it. For a moment, I found myself staring at my family, just appreciating it all. The years, the laughter, the inside jokes, even the small silences that only families understand. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. We were together. Then Evan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Pastor Joseph says he's coming by. Tonight?" Lily looked up. "For what?" Martha's hand paused midair. "He didn't say why." "Nope. Just said it was important." We brushed it off. Pastor Joseph was a kind man, known to stop by randomly. Still, something in his timing felt odd. But I didn't dwell on it. If someone had asked me then, "Is your family happy?" I would have said yes, without hesitation. Because how could I have known that by the end of the night, the truth would shatter everything? How could I have known that our family's darkest secret was sitting at that very table, staring us all in the face, and that the man who would pull it all into the light was already on his way? It was just past 7:30 when we heard a knock at the door. 3 short, steady knocks. Not rushed, not hesitant, just deliberate. Martha wiped her hands on a dish towel. "That'll be Pastor Joseph." She looked at me, then back toward the door. I could tell. Something in her posture shifted, like a thread had been pulled loose inside her. I opened the door. There he was, Pastor Joseph. Tall, broad-shouldered, always with that calm, steady gaze. But tonight, he didn't smile. His eyes darted behind me toward the dining table. His voice was quiet when he spoke. "Evening, Henry. May I come in for a few minutes?" "Of course, Pastor. We were just finishing dinner." He nodded and stepped inside. The air behind him felt colder, not in temperature, but in tone. Something clung to him, something heavy, like a storm trailing behind. The moment he entered the room, everyone shifted. Evan straightened up. Lily instinctively pulled her daughter closer. And Martha looked down at her plate, her lips pressed tightly. Her hands trembled ever so slightly. "Sorry for intruding," Pastor Joseph said, taking off his coat. "I won't be long. There's something I need to say, and it couldn't wait." I gestured toward a chair. "Sit with us?" He hesitated. "I'd prefer to stand, if that's all right." That's when I knew something was off. Pastor Joseph was a man who believed in conversation, in patience. He was the kind to sit down with tea and scripture, to talk things through slowly. But tonight, his hands were clenched, knuckles white. Trying to ease the tension, I half joked. "No emergency at the church, I hope." He didn't laugh. "No," he said, "but this is spiritual warfare of a different kind." He looked around the table. His gaze stopped on Lily, then Evan, then Martha. She still wouldn't look at him. He exhaled. "I've wrestled with this all week, prayed on it, fought the urge to come here. But the burden, it's not mine to carry. It's yours, and silence only deepens the damage." I blinked. My instinct sharpened. "What are you saying?" He turned to me. "Henry, I don't say this lightly, and I need you to know, this comes from a place of conviction, not judgment. But something happened, and the longer it stays hidden, the more it poisons." I glanced at Lily. Her face had drained of color, her eyes glassy. Evan looked frozen, his fork untouched. The baby, blissfully unaware, was still babbling to herself. "I don't understand," I said slowly. "What is it?" He looked straight at Lily, then Evan, and finally Martha. "The baby, Lily's baby." He paused, like he was choking on the words. It's not what you think. Her baby is not just hers. He looked at me, right into me, and finished. Her baby is your son's. Silence. It slammed into the room like a dropped stone in still water. Ripples of shock, disbelief, betrayal. I heard someone inhale sharply. Lily was crying. Not loudly, not yet. Just quiet, stifled sobs. Evan looked like someone had ripped the floor out from under him. And Martha, my wife, stood up so fast her chair screeched backward. But she didn't say a word. Not yet. For a long moment, no one spoke. The words hung in the air like smoke, choking, lingering, impossible to ignore. Her baby is your son's. My mind didn't know where to go. It just froze, like it couldn't decide what emotion to pick first. Shock, confusion, denial, rage. They all screamed at once. What the hell are you talking about? Evan's voice finally cut through the silence. But even as he spoke, his voice cracked. He wasn't angry. He was scared. Pastor Joseph didn't respond right away. He just lowered his eyes, as if looking at us hurt. Please, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Someone tell me this is a mistake. Lily shook her head, eyes wide, lips quivering. Dad, I know, Evan snapped. Don't. His hands were balled into fists on the table. He still hadn't looked at her. Martha remained standing, not pacing, not shouting, just still. Her hand covered her mouth. Her eyes locked on the wall, like she was seeing something none of us could. I didn't want it to come out like this, Pastor Joseph said softly. But I couldn't carry this alone anymore. How do you know? I asked. How could you possibly? Because she told me, he said. In confession, the room shifted again. Lily looked like she was about to collapse. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said suddenly. Her voice was barely audible. It just got out of control. Evan stood up. Stop. Just stop. He looked at me, eyes wild. You don't believe this, do you? This can't be real. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I was trying to find air, trying to make sense of a world that had flipped upside down in seconds. The warmth, the laughter from earlier, it felt like it belonged to another family. She was hurting, Pastor Joseph said. Grieving, vulnerable. And he looked at Evan, then looked away. He was lost too. I'm not here to blame, only to reveal. Evan turned on him. You don't get to walk into our house and destroy us like this. I didn't destroy you, Pastor said calmly. The truth was already in this house. I only named it. Martha suddenly moved. She walked toward the window, her steps slow and mechanical. She stood there, arms folded tight, her back to us all. I wanted to scream. I wanted someone to say this was a prank, a mistake, a dream. But Lily's face said otherwise. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. What happened? I asked her. Lily, I need to hear it. From you. Her hands trembled as she clutched her napkin like a lifeline. It was just once. I swear. It was one night. After the funeral. My heart dropped. After the funeral. 3 months ago. When we buried my brother, her uncle. Evan and Lily had both stayed behind to clean up after everyone left. One night. That night. I couldn't breathe. We were both a mess, she continued, tears falling now. I'd had wine. Evan had too much. We talked for hours. We cried. And then, it just happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it. And afterward, we both said it was a mistake. We promised to never speak of it again. Evan was pacing now, running both hands through his hair. I didn't think she'd get pregnant. I didn't even think. He stopped. I didn't think. Why didn't you tell us? I asked, my voice breaking. You let us fall in love with that baby. You let us believe. I was scared, Lily whispered. Ashamed. I didn't even know I was pregnant until later, and by then, it was too late. Martha finally turned around. Her face was pale, her jaw locked, but her eyes were dry, hollow. You were going to let us raise the child without knowing? She asked. Her voice was like ice. I didn't want to ruin everything, Lily sobbed. I thought maybe it could stay buried. Well, it's ruined now, Evan said, voice flat. Then he turned and walked out of the room, the sound of the front door echoing like a gunshot. The door slammed shut, but no one flinched. Evan was gone, just like that. Out the door, into the night, leaving behind a silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like it was waiting for something, for someone to break, for someone to scream. But no one did. Martha was still standing by the window, arms crossed, her face unreadable. Lily was crying now, quietly, shoulders shaking. The baby began to fuss, sensing something was wrong, but too young to understand what. I wanted to hold her, but I couldn't move. I was stuck, like my body had disconnected from my mind. Pastor Joseph sat down slowly in Evan's empty seat. For the first time, he looked tired, like he'd aged 10 years since walking through the door. "I'm sorry," he said. "I truly am." But sorry didn't fix anything. Sorry didn't put the pieces back together. Sorry didn't give me back the image of my family I thought was real. "I need to go check on Evan," I muttered, even though my feet didn't move. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Pastor Joseph nodded, but didn't respond. His silence said enough. I glanced over at Martha, still frozen, still staring out into nothing. Her shoulders were rigid, like they were holding up something trying to crush her. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't shocked. She knew, or at least she had suspected. The way she hadn't looked surprised, the way she hadn't asked any question. The thought hit me like a second betrayal. "Did you know?" I asked her, barely above a whisper. She didn't respond. "Did you know, Martha?" My voice rose this time, thick with disbelief. Still nothing. Lily looked at her mother, eyes wide. "Mom." Martha turned slowly, her face calm in the most terrifying way. "I wasn't sure," she said. The air left the room. "I noticed things," she continued. "Glances. Avoidance. Evan started showing up less. Lily seemed distracted, anxious. I asked questions, but no one gave me answers. So I watched." "And you didn't tell me?" I asked. "You just let me sit there, week after week, thinking everything was fine?" Her eyes locked on mine. "I didn't know how to say it. What was I supposed to do? Accuse our children without proof? Break apart the family based on a hunch? You could have told me." "And then what, Henry?" she asked. "Then we both carry it. Then we watch everything fall apart based on something we weren't even sure about." Her voice cracked. "I was trying to protect us." "But you didn't," I said bitterly. "You protected the lie." Martha's lips tightened, but she didn't argue. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to defend. Another silence fell, this one colder. The baby let out a sharp wail. Lily picked her up, rocking her gently, whispering comfort through her tears. The child's cry was the only honest sound in the room. "I didn't want to ruin everything," Lily whispered again. And that's when it hit me, the bitter truth. Everything was already ruined. We were just the last ones to admit it. Martha turned away from the window, but this time she didn't freeze. She walked slowly to her chair, pulled it out, and sat down, not gently, not carefully, but like the weight in her chest had finally become too much to carry standing up. Her eyes met mine. "I kept quiet because I hoped I was wrong," she said, her voice low. "I hoped I was just paranoid, that I was imagining it. But when I saw Lily cradle that baby, and the way Evan couldn't even make eye contact with her afterward, I knew." I swallowed hard. My throat was tight. "Why didn't you say anything to me?" "Because I knew you wouldn't handle it," she said bluntly. "You trust too easily. You believe in this family with your whole heart, and I didn't want to be the one to shatter that." She turned to Lily. "But now it's shattered anyway." Lily didn't lift her head. "I carried this alone," Martha continued, her voice building. "Do you know how many nights I lay awake, wondering if I should speak? If I should confront either of you? I watched my son shrink into himself. I watched my daughter hide under smiles. And I watched a baby born into silence and lies." Her voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like to love a child, and also feel sick just looking at what that child represents?" Her hands trembled as she pointed to Lily. "You are my daughter, and I love you. But what you did, it broke something sacred." "Mama, I'm sorry," Lily whispered. "I'm not finished." That sharpness in Martha's voice? I hadn't heard it in years. She wasn't raising it, but every syllable hit with precision. "You could have come to me," she said. "Both of you. You could have told me the truth. Do you know what it feels like to sit across from your own children and feel like a stranger?" She looked at me. "I was protecting your hope, your blind optimism. You believed we were whole. I didn't want to take that from you." Then, to Pastor Joseph, "You did what I couldn't. You said it out loud, and for that, I don't know whether to thank you or hate you." "I understand," he said quietly. Martha turned back to Lily. "Tell me the truth now. All of it. No more lies." Lily clutched her daughter tighter, Her lips parted, trembling. She looked at me, then at Martha, then down. "I didn't know how to stop it," she whispered. "What do you mean, stop it?" I asked, startled. "It happened once. You said that." She shook her head slowly. Martha froze. Lily's voice broke. "It wasn't just once." My hands gripped the edge of the table. "I didn't plan it," she said. "But after that night, we didn't stop. It went on for weeks. Every time we saw each other, it just kept happening. I knew it was wrong. So did he. But I thought maybe, just maybe, it meant something. And just when I thought things couldn't break any further, she said the one thing none of us were ready to hear. He said he loved me." Lily broke. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, terrifyingly quiet. Her body folded in on itself, shoulders collapsing as she held her daughter like a shield. Her face crumpled, and she let out a sound I'd never heard before, half sob, half gasp, like something was tearing inside her. "I didn't want this," she cried. "I didn't want any of this." Her hand shook as she tried to soothe the baby, but the child was crying too now, sensing her mother's unraveling. The room echoed with their pain. Martha didn't speak. She just stared at her daughter, stone-faced, cold, unreadable. Pastor Joseph bowed his head in quiet prayer. I walked over slowly and sat beside Lily. I didn't know what to say. I just knew I couldn't watch her fall apart from across the room. "Talk to me," I said. "Please." She looked up at me through red eyes. "I know I'm disgusting. I know. I hate myself. I look at her," she glanced at her daughter, "and I feel love and guilt at the same time. And then I hate myself more for feeling anything but love." I reached for her hand. She flinched, then let me take it. "It started because I was lonely," she whispered. "Everyone kept saying I was so strong after Mom's accident, after Uncle Jeff's funeral, after my ex left. But I wasn't strong. I was barely surviving." She glanced toward the door Evan had walked out of. "He checked in on me," she said. "He was the only one. He stayed. He helped me with the baby stuff. Late-night phone calls. I didn't plan for it to turn into anything. But he was kind when I needed it most. And one night, the line just blurred." Martha finally spoke. "Kindness is not love. I know that now," Lily snapped, then instantly recoiled. "Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean." Martha stood up. "Where are you going?" I asked. "I need to breathe," she said. Her voice was flat, but her eyes were full. She walked out. Not fast, not slow, just gone. Lily watched her mother leave and burst into sobs. "I've ruined everything," she said. "I've ruined this family. I didn't want to, but I did. I broke Mom. I pushed Evan away. I broke you." "No," I said, holding her hand tighter. "You made a mistake. A terrible one. But we're still here. We're still breathing. And that means we're not finished." She shook her head. "You don't get it. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a whole chapter. A whole spiral." She wiped her nose with her sleeve. "After that first night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. It was like something inside me had cracked open. I hated it. I loved it. I needed it. It made me feel less empty, like I still mattered to someone. That wasn't love," I said. "I know that," she whispered. "But I didn't care at the time. I just wanted to feel something good, something safe." She paused, then looked up. "Do you think I'm sick?" I was silent, because honestly, I didn't know how to answer that. All I saw was a girl, my girl, who had lost herself. Somewhere between grief, loneliness, and desperation, she'd made a decision that unraveled everything. "I think you're hurting," I said. "And I think you've been carrying too much for too long." She let out a shaking breath. "I miss Mom," she said suddenly. "She's still here," I replied. "She just needs time." Lily nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She wasn't sure she'd ever get her mother back. The baby stirred again in her arms. "She doesn't know," Lily whispered, cradling her. "She doesn't know who her father really is. One day she will. And I don't know what I'll tell her." "You'll tell her the truth," I said. "But you'll also tell her who you became after it." She blinked. "Because that part's not written yet." Outside, a car started. Martha was leaving. The house felt hollow again. But this time, I wasn't sure if it could be filled. I found Evan in the backyard, sitting on the porch steps. He didn't look up when I walked out, just stared at the dark sky like he was waiting for an answer that wasn't coming. I didn't speak right away. Neither did he. The silence between us was different from the one inside. Inside, it was heavy with accusation. Out here, it was just tired. "I figured you'd come out here," he finally said. I sat beside him. I had to. The air was cool. Crickets chirped somewhere in the dark. Everything felt too normal for a night like this. "I had to get out of there," Evan muttered. "I couldn't breathe." "I know." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I didn't think it would come out like that. Or at all. You were just going to live with it?" He shrugged. "I don't know. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know what I was doing most of the time. I just felt like I was losing her." "Lily?" "No," he said quietly. "Mom." That stopped me cold. "She almost died," he said, voice cracking. "And no one talked about it. Everyone acted like everything was fine. Like we were fine. But I wasn't. I felt like a ghost in that house." He wiped his face with the sleeve of his hoodie. "Lily was the only one who saw me," he said. "She didn't ask for anything. She just showed up, brought food, checked in. And one night we were talking, and she started crying. And I didn't know how to comfort her. I just held her, and she held me back, and we didn't stop." He turned toward me, eyes red. "It didn't just happen. We let it. I let it." The air between us felt too still. "I hated myself every time," he said, "but I kept going back. Because with her, I didn't have to pretend. We were both hurting, and it felt like, for once, someone understood what I was carrying." "You knew it was wrong," I said. "I know it was wrong," he snapped, then caught himself. "Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not the one you owe that to," I said. He looked down. "When the baby was born, I knew. I saw it in her eyes, in the way she looked at me when no one else was around. It's like she knew I knew. And what did you do?" "I avoided her. I avoided everyone. I was terrified, not of the truth, but of what it would do to Mom, to you, to that little girl." He paused, then said something so quietly I barely caught it. "I don't think I deserve to be her uncle, or her father. You're both," I said gently. "But that child didn't choose this, and now she needs you to be something better. I don't know if I can be. Then figure it out. Get strong." He nodded, but there was a brokenness in his face I'd never seen before. Then he whispered, "I think I need to leave." I looked at him, long and hard. "And where would you go?" "Anywhere I won't keep hurting people." I didn't try to stop him, because maybe for once, he was right. I came back inside alone. The house was quieter now, emptier. Lily had gone to put the baby to sleep. Martha was still gone. Evan, who knew if he'd come back at all? And there sat Pastor Joseph, still in the same chair, his hands folded like he'd been praying the whole time. I sat down across from him. He looked at me, tired eyes, heavy heart, and said, "I didn't want to be the one to do this." "I believe you," I replied. "I've buried marriages, officiated funerals, sat by bedsides where people drew their last breath," he said. "But this was the hardest moment of my ministry." I nodded, waiting. "I'd known something was wrong for a while," he said. "Not just between your children, but in the silence around them." It was like everyone was speaking in riddles, holding their breath. I saw Evan stop coming to church. I saw Lily come alone, then stop too. And I heard whisper about the baby, about timelines that didn't quite add up. "So you confronted them?" "No." I waited, until one day, Lily came to me. He exhaled, long and deep. She broke down, told me everything. She begged me not to say a word. She said she'd handle it, that she'd fix it. But she didn't. No, she didn't. He paused again. "I sat with that secret for weeks. Every time I saw you, I wanted to tell you. Every time I shook your hand or watched your wife sing in the pew, I felt like a fraud. But I told myself it wasn't my place." His voice cracked. "I prayed for a sign, some way for the truth to come out without me being the one to bring it. But nothing came, just more silence." He looked at me, and then I remembered why I became a pastor in the first place. "To comfort?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "To serve truth, even when it hurts, even when it breaks families open. Because pain doesn't heal in the dark. It festers." He leaned forward. "I didn't come here to punish. I came because that little girl, your granddaughter, deserves to grow up in a home where the truth isn't buried under shame. I felt something in my chest crack, not in anger, but in release. She's innocent, I whispered, and the truth should never make her feel otherwise. I looked at him, years of friendship between us, and saw a man who had chosen the harder road. I don't know how we're going to fix this, I admitted. Everything feels like it's shattered. He nodded. It is shattered, but maybe that's the only way it could be rebuilt, honestly this time. He stood up slowly. Henry, not every family survives the truth, but the ones that do, they come back stronger, not cleaner, not perfect, just real. I stood with him. Do you regret it? I asked. He paused. Every second, he said. And none of it. 3 days passed. No one said a word. Martha stayed in the guest room. She moved quietly around the house, cooking, cleaning, caring, but without a voice. The woman who once filled our home with humming and warmth now moved like a shadow. Lily didn't leave her room. The baby cried more than usual, like she could feel the tension bleeding through the walls. I brought them food. I held the baby. But Lily and I rarely spoke more than a sentence. When our eyes met, there was always guilt behind hers, and helplessness behind mine. And Evan never came back. I called, texted, drove by his apartment. Nothing. It was like he'd vanished, like the weight of the truth had pulled him under, and he didn't want to resurface. Every part of the house felt colder. The couch where we used to sit together for Sunday movies now sat untouched. The kitchen table felt too big, too empty. I started sleeping in my office chair because the bed felt too hollow without Martha beside me. I found myself listening for sounds that no longer came. Martha's laugh, Evan's jokes, Lily's footsteps. Even the baby's cooing felt distant, like joy had been filtered out of her voice. The house echoed with silence in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like a warning. On the 4th night, I came downstairs and found Martha sitting alone in the living room, staring at an old photo of the 5 of us on the beach. She didn't look up when I sat beside her. She was 7, she said. He was 10. They built a sandcastle together and refused to let the tide take it. Remember? I did, vividly. That castle was their proudest childhood achievement. They fought the ocean like it was the enemy, laughed like nothing could break them. They used to love each other, she whispered, in the way siblings are supposed to. I think part of them still does, I said, but it's buried under a mess they can't undo. She finally looked at me. Do you think we can forgive this? I hesitated. I don't know, but I think we have to try. She nodded slowly. Not for them, she said. For her. For the baby. We sat in silence, both of us holding different parts of the same grief, not knowing what healing would look like, but knowing that doing nothing would destroy what was left. Later that night, I passed by Lily's room. Her door was slightly ajar. I knocked gently and stepped in. She was awake, rocking her daughter in the dark. She won't sleep unless I hold her, Lily whispered. She knows something's off. I nodded. Kids always do. She looked at me. Do you think he'll come back? I don't know, I said, but I hope he does. Not for me, for her. Lily glanced down at her daughter. She keeps looking at the door. She's waiting, I said. Lily nodded. We all are. Dinner on Sunday came again, just like it always did. But this time, it was different. We still set the table, out of habit more than hope. 4 plates, 4 glasses, 4 folded napkins, and 1 high chair. But Evan's seat stayed empty. We didn't talk about it. No one said his name. But the silence around that space was loud. The clink of forks on plates, the shuffle of feet, even the baby's soft gurgles, they all seemed quieter without him. Martha passed the bread without looking up. Lily tried to smile, but couldn't hold it. I watched the front door for most of the meal, like maybe he'd walk in, say it was all a bad dream, sit down like nothing had happened. But he didn't. And in that moment, I realized something. Families don't break in one big explosion. They fracture quietly, in glances, in secrets, in silence, 1 chair at a time. That empty seat haunted me, not just because of who wasn't in it, but because of what it represented. The trust we'd lost, the innocence we couldn't reclaim, the truth we couldn't unhear. But I also realized something else, that even though 1 chair was empty, 4 others were still full. There was still food on the table, still a baby laughing in her mother's arms, still hands being held before grace, still pain in our hearts, but also breath in our lungs, still a family, bruised but breathing. Maybe that's what survival looks like, not pretending nothing happened, but accepting that everything did, and choosing to gather anyway. Because healing doesn't start with forgetting. It starts with showing up. It starts with keeping a chair open, even for the one who left. Maybe Evan will come back, not to be forgiven, but to help us forgive, to say the words he couldn't that night, to face what we've all been carrying. Or maybe he won't, but the chair will be here, waiting. And so will we. Thank you for listening to our story. If this touched your heart, even just a little, please like this video and subscribe to One Chair Empty for more true stories that remind us, even when one seat is gone, the table still matters.